listen, it's important to have a long-term vision and stay engaged. Personal leadership is about making choices, declaring visions that are meaningful to you for the long haul, and then taking the personal responsibility along the way through your choices that are aligned with the vision that you want for your whole life. Welcome to the 100-Year Lifestyle Podcast, dedicated to you and your loved ones living at 100% for 100 years and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Plasker. Welcome, everybody, to the 100-Year Lifestyle Podcast, where we are transforming health and longevity consciousness worldwide so that you and your loved ones can live at 100% for 100 years and beyond. And we're going to talk about the leadership ladder today. We're going to climb the leadership ladder. This is a hot topic that we have done in corporations around the country. We've done it in schools. Many of our affiliates have done it around the country in schools and organizations, things like that. And over the last couple of weeks, I had the opportunity to do segments of this particular presentation and program in Dothan, Alabama with Dr. Paul Weeks, a great community there. Met some beautiful people that are in the middle of change, people of all ages. I met a 94-year-old woman who was doing her thing, very passionate, very healthy, living this 100-year lifestyle. She had just gotten adjusted. She's eating healthy. She's engaged in the community. She's a veteran hero in our country, for our country over the years, amazing person. Also met some young people, some kids that were in the middle of making changes in their life, and met a woman who was in a tragic accident, and she's getting her life back, and she's got a whole new perspective on how she wants the rest of her life to be, living her ideal 100-year lifestyle. An amazing opportunity to be down there. Also had an opportunity to deliver a talk. This was a first timer, I got to tell you, so exciting. Went to Westminster High School and did a talk for some of the athletic teams there. It's one of the top high schools in the country. We did a program on climbing the leadership ladder, and I got to deliver this presentation. It was the first time I got to present with my son, Dr. Corey Plasker, and what an inspiring event that was for me, just from that perspective, and also because the kids and the parents together in a room talking about things that mattered, talking about leadership, talking about becoming a leader, better leaders, more servant leaders, compassionate leaders, empathetic leaders. And it was really well received, and got to meet some beautiful people there as well. And so we're going to talk about this concept of climbing the leadership ladder. And I think it's going to, no matter where you are in your life, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, whether you're a company person, an employee of a company organization, whether you're involved in some type of nonprofit, a cause that you believe in, this is going to be relevant for you. If you own a company, this is certainly going to be relevant for you. And I want to start with a quote, and it's a quote from a book that I read a long time ago, famous author, Stephen Covey. He's no longer with us, sadly, but he left us such an amazing legacy. And it's from his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which, by the way, the first habit was begin with the end in mind, which from our perspective is living an active, healthy, passionate life from 100 years, for 100 years and beyond, 100% for 100 years. And he said something that changed me years and years ago, and I love this quote. He said, most people spend their whole lives climbing the ladder of success, only to realize when they get to the top, the ladder has been leaning against the wrong wall. So profound. We've seen so many of our family members, friends, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, people who we have looked up to, where they spent their whole life climbing the ladder of success, got to the top, looked around and like, damn, it's not what I thought it was going to be. This is not what I really wanted for myself. And along the way, they never took the time to reevaluate, to check themselves and change ladders. So many of you, when we talk about climbing the leadership ladder, you're going to realize, you know what, I'm on the wrong ladder. I need to change ladders. And some of you are going to say, wow, I need to change myself, or I need to change my career. Or you know what, some of you are going to say, wow, I'm so blessed. I'm in the right place. I just need to go about things a little bit differently so that I can get greater results, have more impact, enjoy myself more, contribute more. And so it's an exciting opportunity to realize that if you are climbing a ladder, to make a decision, is the ladder against the correct wall for you, or is it against the wrong wall for you? And I love the second part of this quote by Stephen Covey. He says, if the ladder is not leaning against the right wall. Every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. So profound, so meaningful. We want all of you in the right place for 100 years and beyond. No better time than the present to make some changes. So let's take a look at the different rungs on the leadership ladder. They go like this. This is, by the way, literally right out of the 100-Year Lifestyle. For those of you that like to read the book, it's in the audios, it's in some of the YouTube channels that we have done. So go to our social media pages, check them all out. And the 4 rungs on the leadership ladder, it starts with personal leadership, then it's professional leadership, then community leadership, and then global leadership. So personal leadership, professional leadership, community leadership, and then global leadership. When it comes to climbing the leadership ladder, understanding where you are, how these different rungs of the ladder interact with each other, how they support each other, how they take away from each other, how they enhance your life, how they interrupt your life or create challenges in your life based on which rungs you're on, and how you go back and forth, and how you do all of these at the same time or one at a time. You'll see what I mean as we get down the road in this podcast today. And I want to start with personal leadership because, listen, the reality of it is that if you want to be a leader and you want to be a more effective leader, you have to start by leading yourself. When it comes to leading yourself, it is important more than ever to develop and begin to develop and clarify a long-term vision for yourself in your life. Listen, if you want to climb the ladder of success and you're only looking 2 days down the road, a week down the road, a month down the road, 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, or a year down the road, then it is very common for people that are very good at short-term thinking and reaching little results on the short term without taking a long-term perspective. It is very common for those types of people to get to the top of their ladder and realize, oh my gosh, this ladder has been leaning against the wrong wall. Because if you have a short-term vision with no long-term perspective or minimal long-term perspective, you reach the top, you reach a goal, it's not what you thought it would be, it doesn't necessarily feel good in your heart. There's an emptiness that comes with it. We see people all the time, and doctors that we work with, they are only focused on monthly goals or quarterly goals or yearly goals, and they don't think about the long term, and they turn around years later and they realize that they have a practice that's filled with people that's not really filled with people. It's an empty practice where their patients love them and left them because they didn't give them a long-term vision. They didn't stay true to the long-term well-being of their patients. They gave a pill in the moment. Some medical doctors, people that we have worked with that have transformed their consciousness, where they used to give pills all the time, they don't anymore. Chiropractors where they are giving people recommendations for lifestyle care, 100-year lifestyle recommendations instead of short-term recommendations. And it's a game changer because it is fulfilling to see people change long-term, not just for the short term. We see CEOs that struggle where they're giving short-term vision after short-term vision, and they keep losing people. They lose employees because people are just being committed for the short term. They're not bought into a long-term vision for their organization or for their company. So there's a lot of power in a long-term vision. We were very blessed in our organization to develop a long-term vision from day one. Our company, the family practice, utilizing the 100-year lifestyle to help patients, people, individuals all over the world develop a long-term vision. It started out with lifetime care for everyone. We wanted people healthy for the long term, transform that into the 100-year lifestyle, giving people a clearer vision of being at 100% for 100 years, taking care of themselves along the way. And think about it for yourself. Do you have a long-term vision? Do you have a sense of what you want it to be? Is it evolving? Has it evolved? Have you looked into the future and decided for yourself, how do you want your life to turn out? Why is this so important? Listen, we see people in all walks of life where they have aging parents and grandparents that are rotting away in assisted living centers. Beautiful people rotting away in nursing homes. They don't have functionality. They don't have their minds. They don't have enough money. They don't have relationships. And we look into the future and we realize that, you know what? Many of these people, one of the challenges is that they did not have a long-term vision. They are living longer than their scientifically predicted life expectancy, by decades longer than what they thought it was going to be. They thought they were supposed to retire at 65 and they would only live a couple of extra years. And as a result of the power of this longevity principle that we talk about in the 100-Year Lifestyle, the body's ability to adapt, they have lived longer. They have outlived their resources. They have not been involved in the community for decades, many of them, because they have been waiting around to die, or they've been rotting away thinking that they're living on borrowed time versus birthright time. And it's become a challenge for them. And so they feel insignificant. They're depressed. They're on 8, 10, 12, 14, some of them 20 medications. Listen, this is not the destiny of our longevity. The destiny of our longevity is the power of long-term vision and staying involved, choosing causes, things that are important, taking personal responsibility, making choices along the way that are impactful, not just in the short term, but for the long term. And when you begin with the end in mind and you have a long-term vision and you make your personal leadership around a long-term vision, you will always feel like you're accomplishing things and there's more to do, because it's not just a short-term goal that you're trying to achieve, but it's a long-term vision. It's an infinite game, as we've heard Simon Sinek talk about in his great new book. And so a long-term vision becomes so important for people if you want to live an active, healthy, long life. If you have a long-term vision, I look at actors and actresses and directors, somebody like Clint Eastwood, who's still directing, still producing meaningful, impactful movies at the age of 90 or 91. And I see actresses like Betty White still making people laugh into her 90s, and politicians staying engaged into their 70s and into their 80s, and business leaders that are staying engaged and involved in their companies and organizations. Papa Jack Weil stayed involved, was the oldest CEO for a while to 107 years old. Listen, it's important to have a long-term vision and stay engaged. Personal leadership is about making choices, declaring visions that are meaningful to you for the long haul, and then taking the personal responsibility along the way through your choices that are aligned with the vision that you want for your whole life. And then when you do that, you can take responsibility for your first thoughts, your first feelings, your first actions, and choose them consciously so that you reinvent yourself every day in a way that is in alignment with your long-term vision and the shorter-term goals that are aligned with that vision that you want to accomplish. Now, why is what I just said so meaningful? Choosing your first thoughts, feelings, and actions. It is not true that feelings are permanent, that if you feel a certain way or if your thoughts that define you today, it doesn't mean that they have to define you for the rest of your life. Some of us have feelings of inadequacy. Some of us have thoughts that are negative thoughts. Some of us feel like maybe we're not capable, or we feel depressed, or we feel sad, which many of us, it's human to feel sad periodically. Certainly there are events that happen in life that affect our feelings. What is important with personal leadership is to realize that you can choose your thoughts. You can choose how you want to feel about things, and you certainly can choose the action steps that you take centered around your thoughts and your feelings. Now, it's interesting because people will say, but Dr. Plasker, I have always been taught to be a super duper feeling person, and I am a feeling person, and I don't want to discount my feelings. Well, listen, my friends, I don't want to discount your feelings either. Here's something to think about, though. How many of you had something happen to you maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you felt a certain way about it? Maybe it was anger, maybe it was sadness, maybe it was fear, maybe it was excitement or enthusiasm because you thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then about a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, you realize, you know what? Those dominant feelings and thoughts that I had about that situation have really changed with time. Maybe you're not as sad as you were. Maybe this feeling that you had of being a victim turned into a feeling like, you know what, maybe I wasn't victimized. Maybe I can make something positive out of that. Maybe I don't have to let that feeling control me. Maybe I can feel positive about that today. Or maybe you had negative thoughts about a person or something or a situation. And then with time, as time goes on, you realize, you know what, man, this is an opportunity. Wow, I thought I was a victim. I thought this was the end of my world. And look, I survived it. Wow, I'm more resilient than I thought that I ever could be. And so now, as a result of that, wow, my resiliency has given me new confidence to take on new goals and new actions in my life. And so you get inspired now. So the things that you used to feel negative about, or the thoughts that used to make you feel negative, have now become a source of inspiration. And if you understand this from day one, when you're younger, then you will save yourself a lot of time trying to figure yourself out and make sense of things, about maybe things that you thought were the reasons why you couldn't do things, as opposed to having them be the reason why you can and should and must be the best yourself, version of yourself, 100% for 100 years, and capitalize on the things from the past to create capital in the future. Working capital, business capital, confidence-based capital, passionate capital that's based on, that feeds a certain cause, that inspires you. Maybe the things that you thought were the greatest challenges become the inspiration for your work. Maybe they become the inspiration for a cause that you get behind. And so what's important, if you understand this, is that you find a strong leader in the areas that support your long-term vision, and then become a strong follower in that vision as you develop your personal leadership along the way. You know, it's interesting. We have talked now about the power of choice and the power of commitment and time. And I have a poem for you. It goes like this. We do a lot of poems. They're available in our store as posters. There's a lot of different ones. And this has been inspiring to a lot of people. It goes like this. It says, life is a marathon, one sprint at a time. Take care of your body, your mind, and your spine. Do what you love and love what you do. Go for the gold. Be fearless, be bold. Life will surprise you. The road will wind. Stand up to the challenge you're surely to find. You've got to have nerve to adjust to it all. Your 100 is coming. You make the call. It's your 100 that's coming. You have to make the call through the personal leadership and the personal responsibility that comes along with you living your life at 100% for 100 years and beyond. When you make these changes along the way, you'll gain experience. You'll start to get results. You'll gain confidence. You'll learn to lead by leading yourself first. And by leading yourself first, from a bigger vision, long-term perspective, you will gain confidence in yourself. You'll become more followable. You'll be honest with yourself. You'll trust yourself rather than stick your head in the sand and be in denial about things that are important that you must have awareness about in order for you to develop yourself as a stronger leader, not just for yourself personally, but as time goes on through your professional leadership, community leadership, and global leadership. And you'll do it with authenticity and self-empowerment, because authenticity, especially now more than ever, since there are so many clowns out there in the world who are just searching for 5 minutes of fame or the ultimate one-time YouTube like that they got 1,000, 10,000 or 1,000,000 views, and then they could never do anything again because they weren't committed to something long-term. We want you to be authentic with yourself as a result, with finding yourself in this personal leadership, so you can be empowered, self-empowered through the ups and the downs for the long haul, becoming and being your best self now and over the course of your entire lifetime. And along the way, you will make choices. You will have the opportunity to make choices. And every time you are faced with a choice, think about what the long-term ramification of the personal choice you're about to make is, and then make a choice in the present, in the moment, that will not only support you in the moment, but that will support you for the long haul. Because if you do that, then you will be proud of yourself along the way. You will get through the ups and the downs, and you prevent yourself, keep yourself from climbing a ladder that is against the wrong wall. I remember, I think back when I was 15 years old, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately with the opioid crisis that we have today in our country. We see so many innocent addicts that are out there. A lot of us know people like this, by the way. They have become innocent addicts. They took an opioid, they had a surgery as a first resort instead of a last resort. They had some pain. They, instead of taking changes, making changes in their lifestyle, choosing holistic types of care, choosing structural types of care, like chiropractic care, like nutritional things, like exercise, like fitness, like positive thinking, choosing things that were good for you, not just for today, but for the long haul. And they made drug and or surgical types of choices that caused them to be addicts, innocent addicts, because they didn't understand the long-term ramifications of their choices. Listen, we have a woman. She's so near and dear to me. She's a patient. She's been a practice member for the last 7 or 8 years. And she does lifestyle care. She gets checked every couple of weeks as a part of a lifestyle. She's healthier than she's ever been. She's in her mid-50s. She's doing amazing. And we had a conversation one day. She broke down, crying, emotional. She described her daughter, who sadly became an Adderall addict because the mom gave her daughter the Adderall at her doctor's recommendations and not realizing the long-term addictive impact of Adderall. And now here is this young lady who's in her 20s, who's been a struggling addict for so many years, trying to get her life back. And the mom has regret, still trying to do the right things today now that she's learned so much along the way, trying to make the changes, making the changes. The thing is that once you become an addict, once the kids you love, the people you love become addicts, they stay addicts for the rest of their life. They have to fight like hell to get their life back. I think back when I was 15 years old, I was faced with a similar choice. I hurt myself playing football. They carried me off the field. I don't remember a lot of this, but I ended up being driven to the hospital. My mom took me to the hospital. I saw the best orthopedic in my area. This is now going back 43 years ago. And I remember the doctor looked at my mom and said, and looked at me and said, Mrs. Plasker, and hey, you afro-headed, red-headed dude. He didn't really call me that, but I kind of felt like he was looking down on me as a young, immature person. He said, listen, take these pills and don't play for 30 days. I had come out of it. I was conscious again, and I was thinking about what it is that I wanted to do, and I wanted to certainly feel better, but I heard the doctor say something that changed my life forever and put me on a path that wasn't a conscious choice at the time because I was anti-drug or anything like that. I wanted to play. And what the doctor said to me and said to my mother, he said, take these pills and don't play for 30 days. Well, these were opioid derivatives. They were painkillers. When he said that to me, here's what I heard. Thank God, this is what I heard. He said to me, take these pills and don't play for 30 days. I heard pills equal don't play. That's what I heard. I wasn't evolved as a chiropractic doctor for 35 years in practice that I am today. I hadn't studied anything. I hadn't looked at the difference between medicine and opioids. I didn't know about any of that stuff. All I heard was pills equal don't play. Now, I was like, man, I want to play. I was like, Mom, you got to find me an answer. I'll do anything. I'm not taking these. Are you crazy? Pills equal don't play. I'm not playing. And so the next day, she took me to a chiropractor, Dr. Ernie Landy. I was 15, like I said. He gave me an adjustment, and I played that afternoon without any pain, didn't become an addict. It set me on a path to help thousands of people now through people like you spreading this message, the doctors we've worked with around the world. We've helped millions of people all over the world to function at their highest level for a lifestyle, living their best life every day, their ideal 100-year lifestyle, choosing more health conscious ways, staying away from drugs and surgery except as a last resort, not as a first resort. And you say, but Plasker, but you're a radical dude when you talk about this. No, I am not being a radical dude. I am caring about your family. I'm not saying there's never a time for those things, but listen, you got to understand that there are consequences of those choices. And so many of these pills are addictive in so many ways, and we never explore the consequences. We think that it's not going to happen to us. I was at a conference speaking at the Florida Chiropractic Association one time in front of about 3,000 people. And this doctor, it was a conference, this particular session was a panel session on opioid addiction. And we know that people that are under chiropractic care can reduce opioid use by more than 50%. It's no wonder so many people are lining up for chiropractic care as a first resort, not just a last resort. Finding the right kind of chiropractor to help you with these types of things are really important. Our affiliates are amazing at that. So you can look for them. And there's a lot of great people out there that can help with this. And what's important, this guy followed me. This was a doctor, chiropractor. He thinks like me, but he followed me into the restroom after the talk, and he cornered me in the restroom, and he said, Dr. Plaschke, you know, what you said really touched me today. I have so many regrets in my life related to the fact that when my son was 9 years old and he had a knee injury, we wanted to get him back on the field really quickly. Everybody said, well, you got to have the surgery. You got to have the surgery. I rushed it. I was impatient with it. My son was impatient. We had the surgery. After the surgery, they gave him a hydrocodone derivative, and now he's in his late 20s, and he's been an opioid addict ever since. And it breaks my heart. Having a long-term perspective, slowing down, thinking long-term for yourself. What are the long-term ramifications of the choices that you're going to make? So important when it comes to personal leadership. And when you do that, you become a rock for people in your world. It's like this person is unshakable, radically open-minded, and open-minded from a long-term perspective, challenging ideas and concepts that are just good for the moment, thinking about them from a long-term perspective. So important as it relates to personal leadership. Once you get that down, you can start organizing your entire world around this longer-term vision. And by the way, this is not an event that happens necessarily immediately in the moment. It takes some time to evolve your vision and clarity from a long-term perspective. But keep it in mind as you're making choices, as you're making decisions, because as we say in the 100-Year Lifestyle, your innate intelligence, your body's innate intelligence, your mind will organize around the thoughts that you think, the choices that you make, and the lifestyle that you live. So as you clarify your long-term vision and you make choices with your long-term vision in mind, your body, your mind, your work, your causes, your relationships will start to take on a much more meaningful perspective because they are based on a long-term vision. And then you begin to apply it more and more to your professional leadership, to the world that you live in, the professional world that you live in, the career that you choose. And you go out into the world with this long-term vision, and you get in a career that no matter what happens inside your work from a political perspective, working based on entitlement, you're working based on something that you're passionate about. You choose something that you're passionate about because it's something that you can stay true for the long haul. There's a lot of younger people that we see that they're getting into environmental type companies because they believe and they're passionate about a healthy environment. We love that cause. We contribute to those causes through content and information and resources that we provide in different ways. And so some of them believe in education. They're committed to education. Many committed to healthcare. We do a lot for causes out in the world where younger people are looking to make healthcare choices. We give trainings and talks in different places around the world that are related to helping young people make choices that help them for the long haul, not just for the short term. Because you know what? It's not necessarily about what courses you want to take. It's about what kind of career you want to have, what you see yourself doing, what kind of causes that you want to contribute out in the world. And if your career is also a cause, then you will survive so many of the ups and the downs that are a natural progression in the world. When technology changes, when the economy changes, there are ups and downs in all types of companies and organizations. But when your career becomes a cause, it is exciting because it takes you through the ups and the downs that make your career sustainable, enjoyable, and exciting for the long haul. And you see yourself doing what you're doing for the rest of your life. And occasionally there are challenges, they knock you for a loop. We all go through those things. And if you're in a business, if you're in an organization, if you're in a company, and you're passionate about your work, then you stay true in spite of the imperfections. You are thinking progress, not perfection, with a long-term vision in mind, because you're passionate about your work. And you will tend to become more profitable at what you do. You'll become better at what you do. And, when it comes to work, the concept of retirement, people ask me all the time, Dr. Plaschko, why do you say that retirement is an outdated concept? Well, because retirement was created for a working world where you were supposed to work to the age of 65 in a job where maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. Hopefully you put enough money away to retire, or you could live on Social Security, or you could live on your pension, and then you would go away quietly at the age of 65 and disappear from the world and from the universe and let your wisdom that you learned along the way rot away somewhere. Well, listen, that has not worked out for so many people that are rotting away in nursing homes and assisted living centers, where if they would have stayed engaged with a long-term vision, and they would have stayed consistent with how they took care of themselves proactively, not just turning to drugs and medication to hopefully keep them functional or alive, but really working to take care of themselves as a part of a lifestyle and working in their work, applying their wisdom that they've learned over the years, then so many more people that instead of rotting away, they would still be contributing in ways that are meaningful, that can make a difference. Why would we ever want to put that wisdom away somewhere and let it decay and deteriorate when we could offer it up through our profession, through causes that we believed in, and through organizations that believed in the same things that we believed in, so that we can contribute on a very high level through meaningful work in a way that it made us passionate no matter what our age. I feel very blessed because that decision that I made years ago, choosing chiropractic care as a career and then becoming a leader and teacher out in the world on the 100-year lifestyle principles, changing health and longevity, transforming health and longevity consciousness worldwide through many people like you who are sharing this message. I wake up today 57 years old, healthier than I've ever been, more passionate about my work than ever, wiser than ever. And I often laugh as I see people that are younger, brand new in this game and the healthcare game, and they're still trying to figure some things out. And I'm like, okay, you have at it. And it's exciting to see people trying and attempting things that have come and gone so many times over, because they're playing a finite game instead of an infinite game. They're playing a short-term vision rather than a long-term vision, hoping and praying that they will figure out that there's way more to it if you play this long-term vision game that we have talked about so many times in the 100-year lifestyle. And so, listen, for those of you that are young, when it comes to being out in the world and the profession, or some of you that have had problems with parents, people that have been in therapy for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, I'm glad you're working yourself out, figuring yourself out. This is not a linear thing. You can do personal leadership and professional leadership and community and global leadership all at the same time. There are some of you that you're waiting to figure yourself out before you start taking yourself on from a professional leadership perspective. Listen, the best way to figure yourself out is to engage and stop blaming the world. Let it go. Figure yourself out through the service and the work that you provide and do. Listen, the world doesn't care that your mom or dad didn't love you. The world doesn't care that your mom or dad did love you. The world doesn't care. You have to stand on your own merit, your own personal leadership, apply it to your own professional life without entitlement, by the quality of the work that you do, getting better every day. Apply that to your leadership in personal and professional. You will love how things evolve for you in your life. We have community leadership. Your community needs you now more than ever. We have a program that we do called Community Leadership, through professional practice, through chiropractic practice for the chiropractors out there, through fitness leadership, and through the fitness world. We're doing it in companies, organizations, everywhere. Community leadership is a big part of it. Why is community leadership so important? Because this world is in desperate need of new leadership on so many different levels. And if you have skills and if you have something that is important to you, it is important that you become involved, that you get involved in the community. Why? Because one of my favorite sayings, people quote me on this often, where I say, it is, comma, not, comma, about you. It is, comma, not, comma, about you. It is about you because you got to be willing to contribute. You got to do your best. You got to do your job. You got to do your work. You got to show up. It is about you. But it is also not about you. It's about the world. It's about making the world a better place. It's about helping people. It's about making a difference. It's about raising up the quality of life, not just in your own world, but in the community that's important to you, in the cause that you believe in, the environment, healthcare, whatever it is, education, whatever it is, the air, water, whatever it is that is important to you. It is, comma, not, comma, about you. And we need people stepping up. We have a saying, imagine a world full of difference makers. Well, if you're applying your personal leadership, making yourself the best version of yourself, you apply it to your work so you have abundance, you learn skills that are necessary through your work, you apply them in the community, you make yourself better, you find and choose your niche, then that niche doesn't just become better for you, that niche becomes better across the board. Why? Because we're making the world a better place through our work involved in our community. When you contribute either your time, your talent, or your treasure, as we've heard many community leaders say, or all three, and you become a part of something bigger than yourself, then that niche that you are working in gets better. And if you go away, hopefully somebody else steps in. But listen, when you build your skills, why would you want to go away? If you're making changes, if you're contributing, why would you want to go away? If you're making a difference, why would you want to go away? And you find and choose your niche. And maybe when you're younger, you do more physical things. And as you get more experienced and you get more wisdom, you do more mental things. You do more leadership-oriented things from a wisdom perspective. You apply that wisdom. You contribute your wisdom. But don't disappear. Don't disappear. Get involved. You know, as you get older, you've heard me say many times probably is nobody wants to get to 100 or 60, 70, or 80 for that matter, crippled, broke, or alone. Everybody wants to feel like their life matters, like their work matters, like their involvement matters. So get involved. Do a little piece. Do a big piece. Take it in phases where sometimes you're super duper 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 involved and sometimes you're less involved. But stay involved. Remember, it is, comma, not, comma, about you. Be a part of something bigger than yourself. Your community needs your leadership now more than ever. From a global leadership perspective, global leadership, wow, this is a very big planet that we live on. The Earth is a very, very, very big planet. It's not as big as the sun and it's not as big as other planets. But if you have traveled this Earth like I have, like many of you are world travelers who are listening to this, it is amazing how big this planet is. It flabbergasted me. I remember when I went to Israel, got off the plane, I could not believe how many people were there. And when I went to Italy, I could not believe how many people were there. And when I went to London and Scotland, I could not believe how many people were there. And when you travel the world, when you go to Canada, when you go to Mexico, when you go to wherever it is that you're going to travel to, the Far East, there's a lot of people out there. This Earth is a very big place and there's a lot of communities out there. And when you do your community leadership to the best of your ability, personal leadership, professional leadership, applying your skills to your community, and we all do that together, taking our niche with a long-term vision, then we can make that difference in the place in our world that can make a difference to this very big planet on a local perspective. You know, there's that saying, think globally, act locally. So true. And some of you that have skills to be able to think globally, act globally, great, have at it. If you have those capabilities, those resources, those skills to be able to make that kind of difference, then go for it. We love that. And if you don't have those skills or you don't have that desire and you don't have those resources, then think globally, act locally, make a difference for the people in the schools, the kids in the classroom, the kids at activities, the environment in your area, or whatever it is that your capability is. Make a difference from a leadership perspective globally through your actions locally, being involved in something bigger than yourself. Be a part of the solution in an area that you can have some control. So as we wind down this session on leadership, just remember, it is personal leadership, professional leadership, community leadership, and global leadership. And finding the balance between all of those are so important. There are some of you that you're so into global leadership that your personal life is falling apart. Some of you are so committed to your personal leadership that you don't have any relationships and you're not applying the things that need to happen out in the world with your skills and talents to your profession, your community, and globally. Find the balance, the appropriate balance for you at the stage of life that you're at between taking care of yourself and your own personal leadership, your professional leadership, the community leadership, and global leadership. There are times in your life that you'll be engaged in all four at the same time. There are some times in your life where you'll have to buckle down and just focus on your personal leadership. Maybe there'll be a tragedy or a situation that requires a lot of personal attention. We all have those things. There comes a time when you have to get out of the cocoon and fly. And so we want all of you to find that personal balance where you climb the leadership ladder with the ladder leaning against the right wall. And when you get to the top, you are inspired by the life that you lived and the difference that you've made. I love in the 100-Year Lifestyle, as we talk about imagining a world full of difference makers. Live your legacy consciously every day. Why wait until you're gone? It's not just about leaving a legacy. It is about living a legacy with lasting purpose, drive, and motivation all along the way. And if you do that and you share this message with the people that you love, there is no doubt that we will collectively transform health and longevity consciousness worldwide, so that you and your loved ones and every person on this planet can live at 100% for 100 years and beyond. Thank you so much for joining us on the 100-Year Lifestyle podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have topics that you want us to cover, people you want us to interview, maybe you have some stories that you want to share, stories of yourself, loved ones, people in your life, we would love to hear from you and share your story. Please email us at my100@100yearlifestyle.com. And remember, nobody wants to get to 100 or even 50, 60, or 70 for that matter, crippled, broke, and alone. So please share the 100-Year Lifestyle, all of our podcasts, social media pages, website with your family, friends, and coworkers so they can take this journey with you. And until next time, adjust your lifestyle. Live your best life today and every day on the road to a sensational century. Dr. Plasker, signing off.